Welcome to Transforming Us podcast. I'm Jess.
And I'm Tamara. We're trauma-informed relationship coaches and old friends here to discuss common patterns and what leads us to paths of security.
You know, people are feeling overwhelmed and disconnected in their painful relationships, which often leads to mental health crises.
We want to share some new ideas and practices to help you cultivate curiosity, compassion, and to redeem the patterns in your relationships, starting with yourself.
Join us on this journey of transforming us. Grab a cup of coffee and let's dive in. Hey friends, welcome back to the Transforming Us podcast. I am thrilled. Today we are talking about the power of compassionate presence. And I think we have a wonderful guest to get into that with us. Dr. Mary Filice is an esteemed educator, scholar, and visionary businesswoman, renowned for her pioneering work in personal transformation and healing. She developed the method of transformation, which merges philosophy with science to guide individuals towards realizing their fullest potential. As an international Enneagram accredited professional, certified in EIQ9 practitioner, Mary also incorporates her expertise in trauma-informed psychotherapy and work with Gabor Maté and interpersonal neurobiology combined with the work by Dr. Dan Siegel. She is the original founding member of Enneagram Collaborative Global, a community dedicated to professional growth using the Enneagram, and a founding member of the Attuned Parent Program, a groundbreaking initiative supporting families. So lots of different overlaps with the types of things we talk about here on the podcast. So welcome, Dr. Mary.
Hi, Jessica. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad that you agreed to come on. And I'm just so intrigued by all the things that you combine and all the work that you're doing, because it's all the things I love talking about. Dr. Dan Siegel's work and trauma work and relationships. So that includes parenting and the relationship with yourself and spouses and friends and everything. Yeah. So honestly, your background and a PhD in philosophy, systematic theology, and human development is seriously impressive. But before we get into all of that, tell me a little bit more about where you live, what your family's life is like, and maybe something meaningful to you these days.
I live in Columbus, Ohio, but I split my time between here in Columbus, which I'm at right now, and Toronto, Canada, which is where I'm from. I'm currently an empty nester with my 3 children spread throughout the entire U.S. My daughter is close by. That's one of the reasons I am in Columbus. She lives in Cincinnati with her husband, Eric, and 2 little ones. My middle son is an actor, director in L.A., and my youngest is a writer in New York City. So we travel a lot. My current focus is on 3 projects that all focus on helping others become who our Creator has called them to be. You mentioned Enneagram Collaborative Global, which serves practitioners, therapists, coaches, somatic workers. The Attuned Parent Project, which serves parents to help them become the parents their children need. And then the last project is what is called the Unwritten Chapter. And it's a small group of 8 sessions that help women at watershed moments in their lives and help them discern what the next chapter of their lives will look like. So that's what keeps me busy these days.
Oh, I'm very interested. All of those sound amazing, and I'm familiar with some of them, but the last one you just mentioned, stirs so much curiosity in me to think about. As a woman going through transitions myself, we all are going through different forms of transitions, but sometimes we just need that extra help. So,
well, we're not made to become on our own. We're made to become in community. And what this group does, it is all women. Most of them are they're on in years, and there's a big decision to be made, whether it's they're coming to the end of the career, a divorce,
Mhm.
uh, they've lost a spouse, a disability of some sort, but or a change. They just realize I need a major change in my life. And so we come together and we use the power of the group, the wisdom of
Mhm.
the group to help each
Mhm.
other, to support each other. And in the wisdom of the group, you end up gaining clarity.
Yeah, that's absolutely beautiful. I love it, and I see that desire to, connect people.
Always,
Yeah.
always. Now we're always connected. It's just we lose
Yes.
sight of that.
Yes.
We're
Yeah,
always
I
connected.
agree with that.
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit about your work with the Enneagram first. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, you are an Enneagram you would, associate yourself with dominant type 2 patterns and
Mhm.
just that compassion and loving presence and helpfulness, things like that, for those that don't know much about that yet. But your desire is to connect and support. Um, how did you come to this tool as something you wanted to use as a way to have this compassionate withness, which I see in all twos? How did that start?
So it happened by accident. It happened by accident through an organization that I was working with, and I heard people talk about it. And when someone said, I'm a two, sorry, someone said, I'm an eight. And then the other one said, I'm a four. And then it was actually my mentor said, oh, those poor twos. They're constantly putting themselves on the back burner and never get anything done for themselves. And it just kind of touched home. I'm like, what are you talking about? And that was my first introduction to the Enneagram. That led me to the work of Almas. And as I don't know if you're aware, but A.H. Almas calls the type 2 merging love. And
Mm,
that landed so deeply because from the very beginning, this work has always been about relationships for me. And that makes sense for a type 2
yeah.
relationship with self,
Mhm,
relationship to another, and ultimately our relationship with the divine. And in my research and in the work I do, both like it runs through all my work, whether it's the method of transformation, the parenting program, or the unwritten chapter. One thing is consistently clear: we break from essence through relationship. Something has been attuned to,
mhm,
something was not seen, and something in us didn't feel met. So, as a coach, in a very real way, in a real sense, I'm standing in for that first experience that missed them, not to replace it, but to help repair it. So,
mhm,
I hold presence, compassion, and attunement so that the nervous system and the psyche can maybe for the first time ever feel seen, that I'm safe here, I belong. So and when that happens, people naturally begin to turn back to their essence. When they return
mhm,
to essence, they find the divine,
mhm,
or they might start with the divine and then they discover their essence. So I'll work with them that way.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's always this two doors to the same room. The Enneagram basically helped me understand the why. Why do we move away from who we're really called to be? It
Mhm,
also gives, as you know, it gives us that map of how to return there. So as an Enneagram 2, I see my gift not only as the helper giver, which is what we're known for, I see my gift as the compassionate witness. And I think you've heard me explain it this way. And this is the way I teach it to those therapists that get trained in my MOT program. To
mhm,
see the divine within another so clearly that eventually they can see it in themselves.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, and there's a type of generosity. I was just talking with somebody this morning about that, that to look on someone else with that type of generosity, it comes back to you too. Yeah, and I think that's what you're saying
Yeah,
is
that's really the loop of grace, isn't it?
mhm. Yeah. I'd love to park real quick on a word you said that some people may not be familiar with, the word essence. My understanding is it's kind of that true self, who you were really meant to be. And you said that. Um, but, I know some people look in places like scripture and, there's an old self and there's a new self. Is there anything else you wanted to say about that?
Well, we are created in the image of the divine. So we aren't the divine, but we're created in the image of the divine.
Yeah.
And we have a speck of the divine within us. That
Hmm.
is essence. Some people call it true self, some people call it soul.
Hmm.
Um, I refer to it in all those three names: essence,
Yeah.
true self, soul. But
Yeah. Thank you.
it is where that divine speck resides. It is where the blueprint is. It is where the temperament is laid out.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. Um, I also see in you this curiosity, all your study and all your experience and the connections you've made, there's a wonder and a questioning that has to happen. And so as you approach the questions you have, what is it about people that makes you so endlessly curious? And
Hmm.
where does that deep hunger to understand the why of human development and maybe trauma or all of that come from?
Good question, Jessica. I think my curiosity comes from the same place that ache in all of us comes from. As I said, we're created in the image of the divine, but we're not the divine. And so there's this natural tension, this pull, this longing. As a theologian, I entered this field with a faith seeking understanding. That's where I began. I wanted to know, like, what is there? Like, why do I have this longing? And I did it with this faith seeking understanding that there's something greater than myself.
Mhm.
I've always held that there's a creator who not only made us, but invited us to become with the creator in collaboration. We had that invitation to participate in the ongoing story of creation. So when I look at human development, when I look at trauma, I'm always asking what interrupted that becoming, because that's the natural process. In
Mhm.
theology, we call it sin or evil. Gabor calls it the lower T trauma. But at the core of it all, we refer to it as a privation of form. Something's missing, a
Mhm.
misattunement to who we were called to be or who we are.
Mhm.
Something's missing in how it was meant to function. And that's the root of my hunger. I
Mhm.
think all of us have tasted that wholeness, every single one of us at some level. We remember it, or at least our bodies remember it.
Mhm.
That's the void that people talk about. That's the something that's missing.
Mhm.
I began looking for answers first in theology, as I said, way back in the early 2000s, understanding the why. So through theology, we figure out the why. Then I was introduced to the Enneagram, which gave me the map of the what. The next thing I was introduced to by accident, because through an illness, my son introduced me to Gabor Maté.
Mhm.
And Gabor gave me the compassionate process of inquiry,
Mhm.
where this break came from. And then in the last 6 years, I was through Gabor introduced to Dan Siegel, which brought the science into it.
Mhm.
How it actually happens. So yes, I'm endlessly curious
Yeah.
because I think our wholeness isn't a fantasy; it's a memory.
Yeah.
And my life's work is about basically helping people find their way back to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And something that I was reminded of when I got into some soul care work was just original goodness and
Oh,
just that reality that at the very beginning, it was all good.
yeah.
And
No,
that
no.
wholeness was there, and something happened.
Not only was it good, humanity was very, very good. There was an
Mhm.
extra very, there was a very put in there because humanity had had an important job to do
Mhm.
in dominion, and it had the capability to take care of others. So it's not
Mhm.
only good, all of creation is good, but it's very, very good.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what we long for, that shalom,
Yes.
That's what I like to call, that wholeness, that completeness. Yeah. Thank you for that. So the Enneagram helps people return to their essence, and then the compassionate inquiry. How would you say, what would be a way that that work plays out in a small example? Could you share that?
So the Enneagram tells us who we are at our core. It
Mhm.
tells us how we lose sight of that, how through our defense mechanisms, through our patterns for survival. It's all for survival. But it also will tell us how to come back. What compassionate inquiry does is an inquiry method that really helps us get deep into the body where the memories are stored. Our mind can lie to us. It
Mhm.
can have us live in the past or the future, but our body never lies. So
Yeah.
this compassionate inquiry technique is a process of getting into the body where all those memories are stored and get us back to that first place of, like we say, a lower T trauma where that separation
Mhm.
just happened.
Okay.
And what we
Yeah.
notice through the Enneagram is is it always aligns to the story. We are narrative creatures, and our Enneagram is the lens through which we see the world and write our narrative, our
Right.
story.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I do a lot personally with parts work, as well as, I love looking at the Enneagram through this perspective of, you have kind of dominant patterns, and then you have repressed patterns, and some things were not allowed. So, like in my story, I've really identified that anger was something that was like, nope, that's wrong. Don't be angry. Don't feel angry. Other people shouldn't be angry. All of it. And
Mhm,
so just inquiring and going in and knowing that my body responds when anger is present as a threat, you know?
mhm.
And so is that kind of I mean, I know I would have to experience it, but is it a lot of those asking yourself and your physical system questions about, what do you need? What's going on?
No, no,
Um,
it's actually stored in feelings because when
mhm.
you and trauma responses.
Okay.
So when you get the client and you notice what's happening in their body. So the first thing, it's an exercise I do, which didn't come from Gabor, which actually came from Belinda Gore with object relations
Mhm.
and question of what does it feel like when you're triggered. And
Okay.
a trigger isn't what happens to us. So we blame what happens on here, but it's really what happens inside of us. And that exercise helps the individual understand ahead of time what what is happening, but it's always tied to an implicit memory of the past. Compassionate inquiry helps us to get that to that implicit memory. We think we're dealing with what's happening here, but it's not. A lot of it is unmet needs and open wounds from the past. So that's what
Okay.
compassionate inquiry helps you to connect
Uh,
with. It's what's happening to you. And when you
mhm.
get into that and you get into the feeling, all of a sudden they disconnect from what's happening up here logically, and it speaks to
Right.
wisdom that the body has maintained here, and it gets them
Yeah.
back to the place of severance that it disconnected from essence, and
Mhm.
you as the coach or therapist take the place of that individual that did not give you that connection and that sense of belonging and being able, the safe place of being able to show up authentically. And
Mhm.
you become that person and the healing can happen. I mean,
Mm.
that's in a nutshell what it is, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's your process of training. So, um,
Yeah.
but it's,
Sure.
yeah, it's a phenomenal technique. I believe that the diamond approach also has an inquiry technique, but what Gabor and Satdaram have put together is very, very powerful.
Mm, I love that. It's very interesting to me. I will love to explore that a little bit more. Um, so, how would you say brain science and some of Dr. Dan Siegel's work layers with this other work? Like, do you see a specific overlap where they really complement one another?
Absolutely, they all work together. So for me as a theologian, I needed to know that, which I'm sure you can relate to too. My intuitive process wasn't just a fluke. Like, I knew this worked. I knew what we did spiritually worked, but I needed to confirm that what we feel spiritually actually has a correlate in the brain. So because when you're when you bring trauma informed neuroscience into the work, the compassion becomes grounded not through sentimentalities. It becomes repeatable. It becomes measurable. It becomes safe. Gabor gave me the where it comes from, what I just explained, the emotional imprinting and the unfinished business that's happening in the nervous system. What Dan Siegel brought to me was how healing actually happens. And I don't know why, I just needed to know that. That was the
Mm-hmm.
last puzzle. And it's through integration. It's
Mm-hmm.
interpersonal neurobiology. It's through attunement and making sense of our story. Remember, I said
Yeah.
that humans are narrative creatures. And the Enneagram, it fits in there because that gives us the what, the patterns that take us away from essence and the pathways to return. So, in putting all three together, the heart, the science, and the
Mm-hmm.
math, compassion becomes a methodology.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly actually why I built and developed ECG, Enneagram Collaborative Global, because it's about bringing practitioners together so we can lift each other up, learn from one another, and become better for the people we serve. Because we're only as good for another as the depth of work that we've done within ourselves.
Yeah.
I never wanted transformation to be this one voice gospel. I wanted a table of many voices,
Mm-hmm.
but each voice, and for me, Gabor, Dan, the Enneagram, I mean, so many can go into the Enneagram that have been my teachers. Each voice reveals a different facet of what it means to be a human being, not just a human being remembering themselves back into wholeness. So science doesn't replace compassion for me. Science
Right.
anchors compassion.
Yeah.
Um, so it can reliably change a life, not just inspire one.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that so much because you are such a shining example of a two that has deeply done the work of getting back to that true self and that grounding with your love and care and compassion. It's not from potentially for some, it's not from an anxious place. It's from this deeply rooted place.
And Jessica, it's something I work at daily.
Mhm.
And I stress to all my clients, you need a daily grounding.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
just it's so easy to go fly up there. And
Yeah.
we need to stay grounded, connected.
Yeah.
And I know I have my morning rituals to keep me grounded, and it sets
Mhm.
the tone for the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so good. And I love how you explain how they all work together and how the science, because I'm a lot like you, where like I'm a very heart-centered person. I'm a four, so in that heart center, I am strong in that desire to connect with people and understand them and listen and things like that. Um, but it can feel so floaty sometimes. And so when I integrate the headspace with a lot of my 5 wing and learn and understand systems and processes and how does this work? And am I just imagining this? Like, I love the way you think, because it is a reflection, I think, of some ways I process information. And I get into something and it's like, how can I not only verify that this is real, but also make it make sense to say this isn't just real for me, but it could be real for anyone, you know? Like, for me, using the Enneagram and attachment theory from a trauma-informed perspective, it's using these things together because it's a catalyst quicker into what are the patterns for why, specifically in relationships, things are, you're feeling so lost or stuck or, without
Mhm.
vision or hope. And so it just gives that map.
Yeah.
And I like that language too. That's great. So I would love for you to respond to a quote. So there is the founder and main leader of nonviolent communication is Marshall Rosenberg. And I just came across this quote and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. He said, "Every criticism, judgment, diagnosis, and expression of anger is the tragic expression of an unmet need. We are accustomed to speaking a language that encourages us to label, compare, and demand rather than be aware of our own feelings and needs." So what do you think about that?
I would agree with it 100%. I I my work is always done through the developmental lens. Humans don't break in adulthood. They break in childhood. We fragment when something we needed wasn't attuned to. And we need two things for healthy brain development and healthy development: a sense of belonging and the ability to show up authentically. A child will always sacrifice authenticity to belong.
Mm-hmm.
That's the break from essence. That's the lower T trauma that I talked about, that Gabor
Mm-hmm.
almost calls it the black hole. Dan calls it disintegration. And as Dan Siegel teaches, attachment relationships literally shape how our brain grows, integrates, and organizes information. So I coach people developmentally and relationally, not from what's wrong with you, but from what happened to you when your
Right.
need was met. There's going back to the quote, when your need wasn't met.
Right.
Um, Rosenberg, who created this nonviolent communication, as he said, it's every criticism and every expression of anger. What was the quote again? Is
Every criticism, judgment, diagnosis, and expression of anger is the tragic expression of an unmet need.
Yeah, we don't label, we get underneath the need,
Right.
right? In our TAPP program, and this resonates with me and what we do in the TAPP program, the Attuned Parent Program, a project. Our core teaching is the 4 ways of becoming. Waking up to this, that
Mm-hmm.
we have an unmet need. Attuning back to who we're called to be. So it's waking up. It's as if this is essence. This is where we're living with this unmet need. Waking
Mm-hmm.
up, awakening, attuning to, oh my goodness, this is where I'm supposed to be. Attachment through, I believe you shared with me that you're learning attachment theory and you're
Mm-hmm.
doing attachment, attachment to self, attachment to other, and then being able to live authenticity.
Yeah.
Because we can only attune to our children to the degree that we are tuned to ourselves.
Yeah.
That's why we need to look at the unmet needs and our reactions, because there's always going to be something underneath that reaction.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something, um, often the stresses that parents are facing, they want help with their children, they want help with behavior, they want help with their kids' dysregulation, but often the kids are just responding to like how misattuned they are as parents. And I had to learn, I still am learning to really tune into that where do I feel unmet needs? Where do I feel that I'm unimportant or unloved? Or where do I feel shame and I'm just like, don't want to be around anybody, and that really impacts my parenting. So, knowing all those subtle things impact the kids. When the
Absolutely.
parent does that work on themselves and understanding the attachment wounds, the places that they, and again, I've said this in other podcasts, like no parent's perfect. It's not about blaming your parents or
No.
saying that they were terrible to you, because the reality is every person that walks the face of this earth has been misattuned, and they're misattuning to others, and we just have to become more aware.
And try to, again, grow towards or develop to work towards a secure attachment, which can always happen.
Mhm.
Otherwise, parenting based on our needs, our view of what is required. You cannot fully see your child if you haven't fully seen yourself.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. I wish I knew this when I was raising my children. My children are in their 30s now. Had I known this, there's an example. I went grocery shopping and my three kids were at home, and it was a beautiful, beautiful summer day. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to come home, and what I would do as a child, I'd be outside having so much fun. I came home and my three children were on the couch reading, locked up, reading, all three of them. It was a beautiful day. And I came out, I was upset. Like, what are you guys doing? Is this all you're doing? All you do is read. I got really upset. They looked at me, and thank goodness they were safe. They felt safe enough to share. But what they were feeling, they started laughing at me. And they said, Mom, any other parent would be thrilled that their kids are home on a summer vacation reading. I wasn't taking into account my three children are very introverted.
Mhm.
I have a 5, a 9, and an introverted 3. They like to cocoon. That's what they have to work at getting outside their comfort zone and outside, especially the 5. So uh, now that I know this, I I I didn't approach it in the right way. I approached it from my memory as a child and what I wanted. I have a very, very strong 7 in me. I have to be
Mhm.
active all the time. Well, my kids, and by the way, I raised them with a lot of activities. They needed more downtime had I known that,
Mhm.
especially type 5 son. A type 2 and a type 5, there's a lot of tension there because the type 2 thinks they're helping, but they don't have barriers. And for
Mhm.
the type 5, that child, it's suffocation and they withdraw more and more and more. And that's what happened to my son. I mean, thank
Mhm.
goodness as adults, we've done a lot of work. The Enneagram has helped. All my entire family has been typed. And now the dynamics and understanding each other and seeing each other, the compassion, seeing each other empathetically through their eyes has
Yeah.
helped the dynamics within the family.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love the perspective on parenting and how knowing these patterns and knowing not putting people in boxes. We say that a lot. It's not that you're one number and this is how you'll always be, but it gives you, like you said, the map, an ability to look closer at what is right now and what are some paths to security. What are some ways that you can travel around the map, and and explore new resources and new ways of being, some that are real easy and comfortable and some that are a little bit almost like upstream for you, so that you have to work a little harder at it, but it's so
Mm,
worth it.
absolutely. And there's always some challenge, there's always some pain in development, but that's part of growth. That's part
Hmm.
of growth. I wish I had the Enneagram raising my children. I wish I had the developmental lens that I have now, but I didn't. But this is the work. Healing our own wounds so that we don't transpose them onto the next generation. And this
Hmm.
is why this is actually why I coach the way I do. Our greatest transformation begins in the relationships that shape us. Our greatest healing happens in relationship too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I love that perspective on relationships and how we do need each other. I mean, we're made for connection.
We're made to become in relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we are mirrors for one another. We help each other understand who we are at our core. We give each other the opportunity to express ourselves.
Mm, yeah. And that's that compassionate withness to be able to listen, to see, hear, and understand and hold space for people. I'm really big about that. They don't need answers
No,
all the
no,
time.
no. Especially as parents, our job is to provide that safe, fertile ground for that little human being to nurture and help them to develop themselves. Just provide that safe space. That's our goal.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for. To
Hmm.
love, provide safety.
Yeah. Absolutely. So let's talk just a little bit about the community and then we can wrap up. What's your vision for the Enneagram Collaborative Global? With the things that you're exploring, is it going to continue to expand? Like, do you have any dreams for what this community is going to do? Opportunities you see for more collaboration and community based learning?
So for ECG, I believe the future is community based healing. True transformation doesn't sustain it, inside a silo, it
Mhm.
sustains inside a field where we are finally realizing that wholeness is relational. Trauma happens in relationship, as I said. So healing happens in relationship. And that means the future isn't one tool or one methodology. It's weaving together of multiple tools, multiple frameworks, and multiple masteries. So the Enneagram shows us the structure. As I said, trauma and attachment science show us the disruption in that structure. Neuroscience show us the repair. But the greatest opportunity ahead of us is to bring leaders and practitioners together. So we don't have to do this entire map alone. So that's exactly what ECG is about. It's not about following one expert. We have many that come. We
Mhm.
provide right now 10 different subject matter expert opportunities to sit at the table with them. And there's two more coming in January. It's not about following one expert. It's about sitting at this shared table with many voices who
Mhm.
hold different pieces of this human puzzle. It's because when practitioners learn from each other, they become more resourced, more nuanced, and more effective. ECG is building a community of the future, I think.
Mhm.
Cross disciplinary collaboration, trauma informed integration, spiritual depth. So we've got not only the psychological, but we've got the spirituality aspect a component, and a culture of non competition. We believe the world is abundant, where we lift each other up because we understand that we rise faster,
Mm.
deep, and more sustainable together. That's what I see as the future. Leaders who collaborate, not isolate,
Mm.
to facilitate healing that is communal, not individual. That's where I believe we're going. And ECG, I think, is already doing the work.
Yeah. Yeah. I will just affirm that. I love the direction that you're going and all that you guys are offering and the ways you bring in so many different perspectives. I agree that the um, best learning is many voices at the table.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So awesome. I would love to ask you, just from the perspective of a two who has done so much work, what has transformation looked like for you before, and maybe through some phases? And I know it's a big question, but just how would you describe your old self and your new self
That's
or
a
who you're becoming?
that's a That's a great question, Jessica. And as I said, it's something that I continue to work at every
Mm-hmm.
single day. Um, if you, I think all of us can relate to this. Our ego is the greatest, the most powerful in our mid 30s. And at that point, it was all about career. Still relationships. It's funny. I had this conversation the other day in maybe ninth grade as a freshman. We were walking home with my girlfriends, and you just talk and it's like, what do you want to be? And as innocent as it just came so natural, I said, I want to be a mother. And they all laughed at me because, we were supposed to be feminists. It's like, what? You want to be a mother? And I said, yeah. And I'm watching my 4-year-old granddaughter. And this is horrible to say, but I use my grandchildren as research. Don't tell anyone. And my 4-year-old, she most likely is a type 2. And when you ask her today, she says she wants to be a mom. My son is a 9. When he was 2, 3 years old, he wanted to be a dad. It was all about relationships. Type 9.
Mm-hmm.
Type 9 wanted to be
Mm-hmm.
part of this family, this unit. In you ask who I was and who I'm becoming, as I'm circling back to, rather than chasing that career and what the ego thought it wanted for me, to grant me the affirmation that I thought I needed, the appreciation. It's coming back to the importance of relationship, which is again the
Mm-hmm.
foundation too. And it's all in the
Yeah.
relationships. But what the expansion is, it no longer is just the family and friends unit. It's an understanding and awakening the relationship to all of creation, the
Mm-hmm.
interconnectedness of all of creation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's been the biggest aha for me that has changed all my decision making.
Mm-hmm.
It's,
I love that.
I do an exercise in the method of transformation, values exercise, and it's a value exercise of what are your values. And I ask my clients to narrow it down to 2 to 3, and I had mine narrowed down when I did the exercise myself: faith, love, and family. And the more I did the work, the more I realized that my family has to fall underneath faith and love, and sometimes the stranger has to come before the family.
Mm.
And there's where it's the interconnectedness of all
Yeah.
that really led that. So it's
Yeah.
still relationship is a 2.
Yeah. That part doesn't change.
No, and I think that's where we started this conversation. It's
Mm-hmm.
really with self
Mm-hmm.
that will determine relationship with other and relationship with the divine.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you hear that often, that there's a 2 that is not as self-aware. It's that giving because they want the love and appreciation or affirmation. And that when you start to get to know that true self, and you take off the persona or the protective mechanisms and strategies and just connect with true love and service, it's not that anxious, um, like grasping.
No, it's a not needing anything in return.
Yeah.
It's an understanding of what unconditional love is.
Yeah.
And to get there, there's work to be done. There's habits that need to be broken. And in the method of transformation, we help you through that, depending on, whatever type it is. For that type 2, it's, will you still say yes in helping? um, easy way of breaking the habit. If no one ever, ever, ever found out, would you still do it? Because the type 2 wants to be appreciated for what they do. Now
Yeah.
that's a, maybe a type, a level 5 type 2. But the more you do the work, the more it's unconditional. You don't
Yeah.
need the appreciation. You can, You can never, it's like, if your right hand never told the left, if your right hand didn't ever tell the left hand, would you be okay with that? Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah. So good. Well, I love your perspective and I love everything you shared today. You're just so wise.
Oh,
Um, so it's been such a rich conversation about you leading with the heart and teaching others to do the same, making sure that heart space is grounded in science and awareness of God's presence too. So I would love to put all of your links and how people can find your resources and maybe social media, things like that in the show notes so people can check it out
wonderful.
there.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you want to say?
Yeah. No, I want to thank you for this opportunity and this sacred moment together. Thank you for inviting
You're
me.
welcome.
If anyone is interested in finding out more, please reach out. We can set up a call. I'd be glad to share more.
Awesome. Well, we close our show always with may you be aware and open to everything that comes to you today because you know it is all for your transformation.
Love it.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
joining us.
Thank you. All the best.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Transforming Us podcast. We hope that you enjoyed the conversation and that you found it helpful. If you loved what you heard, we would really appreciate if you would take a moment and leave us a 5-star review and rating. Your support helps us reach more listeners like you.
And also don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more relationship content. Then if you're looking to take your growth to the next level, check out our coaching services and groups at transformingus.org.
We're here to help you transform your patterns and enjoy more secure relationships.
Until next time, in the words of Raoul Shane, you do not need to do big things. Just do small things in a big way. Then transformation will follow you.